And at exactly 6 minutes past 7 a.m., time for us to quickly skim through on what the different dailies are holding for you. And obviously, we just be having that particular story on what the senators did in terms of approving the raising of the debt ceiling to 10 trillion. That is actually what has made its way on the front page of the People Daily this Wednesday morning. In fact, as it turns out, this vote was supposed to happen last week, but that was postponed after allies of President Uhuru Kenyatta and Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga were not able to marshal the numbers in Parliament, and so that was postponed up until when they were able to vote in to approve the raising of the debt ceiling to 10 trillion. So again, just as we asked earlier, what does this portend for you and I in terms of particularly raising of taxes, knowing fully well that as of March public debt now has stood at 8.4 trillion with a deficit of 846 billion. This is in respect to financing our 3.3 trillion finance for this, particularly budget for this financial year 2022-2023, which actually begins next month, that is July 1st. So even as that was happening, Uhuru Kenyatta now signs 10 bills into law, even as he rejects three others. Part of what formed in the 10 bills that he signed into law include the supplementary appropriation bill, the finance bill, as well as the appropriation bill. So that those are part of what he signed into law. This is even as he rejected the higher education loans bill of 2020. Also part of what was signed into law is the mental health bill. This is a bill that was proposed by the nominated senator, that is Sylvia Kasanga. And it's really quite timely given the fact that we really are having a lot of cases of mental issues and mental wellness. And also largely this particular bill is supposed to provide proper treatment and rehabilitation of matters to do with mental illness. This particular bill actually was in Parliament for close to 4 years before it was approved, and then later on sent into law by the president. So away from that to now, what is happening just 47 days to the polls and the questions that are being raised, particularly by Kenyans as well as the various presidential candidates, on IEBC's preparedness and readiness to handle the polls. Remember that the IEBC has already conducted its first simulation process. This is just basically a process that is conducted by organizations as well as institutions to ascertain the ability and credibility of that particular organization to be able to handle whatever it is they say they can handle, and also just to see how best they can respond to crisis. So it is set to conduct its second simulation process. And even as this is happening, the questions being raised is the issue to do with the 3G and 4G network. Remember that as it stands, out of the 46,232 polling stations, as mentioned by IEBC, 1,111 of these polling stations still lack the 3G network. And what IEBC said is that it's going to procure the satellite phones, and largely remember that also this is part of what informed the nullification of the 2017 presidential election, the lack of internet connectivity. Also the questions being raised is what they said, that they're not going to use the manual register, they're going to use the digital register. And again, the question still comes is that what if internet connectivity fails, what then happens in respect to that? So this is some of the questions that also just have been raised by Kenyans as well as the various presidential candidates. And this just comes particularly a day after IEBC released the final voter registers, which indicated that 22.1 million Kenyans qualify to vote in this election. And lastly, much as the Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja still is facing woes when it comes to his degree qualification, the latest poll by TIFA just indicates that he is a preferred candidate, the preferred gubernatorial candidate for Nairobi, whereby it puts him at 42%, who are the respondents who actually feel that he's the best to lead Nairobi. And this puts Igathe at 32%. Out of this, polls that were conducted by TIFA indicates that 28% of the respondents were still undecided. This is even as he still continues to battle with his degree validity. Victor.
Huh? The faces in DP Ruto's cabinet. The faces in DP Ruto's cabinet. He is expected to unveil team comprising politicians and technocrats. Has not hinted about choices, but has said half would be women. Who are the faces? Details shortly. Odinga most preferred by Nairobi voters. In the latest survey, the Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga's approval rating in Nairobi has soared, while that of William Ruto has dwindled, according to a new opinion poll. The survey by TIFA research shows that Raila is 2 times most popular in the city than Ruto, with 47 days to the polls. Now, the poll suggests that if the elections were held today, Raila would secure 50% of the city votes against Ruto's 25%. All right, popular ARV drug making patients obese. That is according to analysis. Popular anti-HIV drug is making users fat. Medics have been urged to be more cautious about prescribing it. So the weight gain is different from the weight people add as they return to good health following treatment. That's a point of concern there from the medics. Senators vote to raise debt ceiling to 10 trillion shillings. That happened yesterday. Uhuru's lawyers widow in 50 million shillings estate row with in-laws. I'll give you more details. So, who are the faces behind possible cabinet, DP Ruto's cabinet? We have got Joseph Nanok, Justin Muturi, Alfred Mutua, Hassan Omar, Peris Tobiko, Davis Chirchir, Charles Keter, Salim Vuria, Ben Washiali, Charles Nyachai, David Ndi, Aden Dwale, and Veronica Maina. Out of this list, we only have 2 women. But the DP said that out of his cabinet, 50% will be, actually 10 will be left for women. Raila's popularity in Nairobi soars as Ruto's drops. That's a story that has been fleshed out there for you. I've given you details. The ODM leader led in Nairobi by 49% against Uhuru's 46.7% in 2013. And according to the new poll, George Wajakoya of Roots Party would secure 7% of Nairobi votes, while Agano Party's David Mwaure would secure a paltry 1%. An interesting read there. I will fix Isiolo insecurity within 100 days. According to Raila, he was in Garbatula in Isiolo yesterday. As a new presidential candidate, Raila Odinga promised that he'll fix security issues within 100 days. When voted in office, he said that restoring security in the region that has suffered from the perennial bandit attacks will be one of his priorities if elected president. That is Raila's campaign yesterday in Isiolo County. And lastly, leaky cylinders killed cheap gas project, says Gathongo. Says that out of 106,186 cylinders supplied Module 1, 79,057, that is 74%, were defective. That explains why. I'll be back with the Daily Nation. Regina?
Now, talking about those stories that have been making headlines, and according to this particular daily, which is a copy of the Standard, is what awaits the next president. We're talking about where we are in as far as fiscal policy is concerned. Yesterday, Senate gave a go-ahead in regard to raising the debt ceiling to 10 trillion shillings to give the government, the next government that is, some wiggle room. But according to Treasury opines that in the first 4 months of this year, the National Treasury inked a deal amounting for 400 billion shillings and has already received 200 billion shilling, which means it had already reached its, target for this particular financial year. We're talking about 2021, 2022. Now we're talking about 2023, 2024. In that regard, Treasury projections is that the next president will have to raise the debt ceiling within the first 2 financial years, with now given that we have already raised it to 10 trillion shillings. The wiggle room in the next financial year, that is 2020 to 2023, being 500 billion shillings, as is by the end of this particular financial year, which is 2021-2022, that culminates in June 30th. We're going to be looking at a 9.5 trillion shillings debt.
with a budget deficit of around 864 billion shillings, pushing the debt to 9.5 trillion shillings. Some quick statistics: by the time that President Uhuru Kenyatta was taking over from the late President Mwai Kibaki, we had a public debt pegged at 1.8 trillion shillings. Now, as it stands, we are looking at 9.5 trillion shillings. This has put a lot of question into how will we repay this particular debt? Your guess is as good as mine. Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Just to remind you that if you haven't filed your tax returns, you have under 2 weeks to do so, the deadline being June 30th. And the KRA and its staff have revised their working hours and schedules to accommodate you to avoid last minute, as we have always seen over the years, with Kenyans rushing in either to do those applications online or manually, and at times stalling that particular online platform. So if you haven't filed your returns, it's a high time that you did so. So the front page is about where Kenya is at in as far as matters of its fiscal policy. What awaits the next president? Indeed, this is not going to be a walk in the park for the next regime, so to speak. 9 trillion shillings there. By the end of this particular financial year, we're looking at 9.5 trillion shillings with just but a wiggle room of 500 billion shillings. Development has to go on. Debt repayment has to be put into question. How do we finance such? Those are the questions that economists and tax experts are probably working on at this point, and we're going to be keeping tabs on that as far as the business desk is concerned. Now, it's the end of an era of an opaque government. Why? And this is because President Uhuru Kenyatta launched a myriad of projects yesterday that will make the government operations more transparent and help curb corruption and cost of governance. In a nutshell, we have the Sasa, that's a digital platform for land information management systems. Remember, the issue of land ownership has been a thorn in the side and the flesh of many Kenyans, many being swindled from their birthrights. Either you do an investment, and at the end of the day, you find that you and other 5 people are owning one particular piece of land. This has been quite something. So the digitization platform for digital platform for land information management, dubbed Sasa, is meant to make these things more transparent and an accountable process therein. Talking about our resources and where we are in as far as matters of oil and gas, even with the exit of some investors, including Talo Oil. Well, Kenya has launched the Kenya Online Mining Cadre System to identify all mineral locations. We need to know where our deposits are in as far as resources, so that we can be able to plan accordingly, to utilize them. So airborne geophysical survey, that's updating the geological information and mineral resources too. This is something that has been in the pipeline, I think, for the last 5-6 years or so, to just have a geomap showing us where, if indeed we have these gemstones, where are they, what are the amounts, how can we exploit that to show up our reserves in as far as the economy is concerned. The national address system, this is something, and we know some members of even the private sector was willing to come in and work with the government in regard to this. We had the online platform Jumia there coming out and saying that they want to participate in this so that it can, since it's in an e-commerce platform there, delivery of your parcels can be easy. Those who use Google Maps, so to speak, sometimes that lady who is giving you directions doesn't quite get it, and you end up getting lost therein. So this national address system is going to enable, travel, deliver service, just simple. Courier services are likely to be very easier and smoother if this comes into effect. Facilities mapping, that is mapping of schools, hospitals, police installations, roads and state offices. We have the National Forest Resource Assessment in light of matters of climate change. This is going to be coming into force. We have the Nairobi Revenue. This is a GIS-based system for revenue collection. This is going to go a long way in enhancing the activities of the taxman there to help them meet their targets. Then TIFA Pay, the universal payment gateway for all government services through mobile, bank and card channels. This is a particular government project that is bound to make transactions transparent, make the government more accountable to its citizenry. Talking about the region, Kenya is to lead a peace mission in DRC Congo. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday, or the day before yesterday, had met heads of the East African region there to try and see the way forward in making sure that DRC Congo does not spill over to full-blown war, so to speak, with now developments coming out from that region is that the DRC is not so open to having Rwanda be part of the peace mission, having blamed them for supporting and even financing the M23 rebels. That is just but a sneak peek of the front page of this particular daily, with also the popularity poll there putting Sakaja at the top in as far as the Nairobi governor race is concerned. Victor.
All right. There's a story I'm reading here, and I know all of us have been victims of this. No more ugali sosa as price of la sauce. Oi. Okay, so you realize that you have too much stew left in your plate, but with no ugali.
Can they give us the skuma instead?
No.
We're all eating healthy, isn't it?
Skuma and ugali, you must have some stew, hapo kando.
And I don't know what happens to there are people who take more of the skuma and leave the ugali, and there are those who deplete the ugali and leave the skuma there. Well, I think those are just habits that we
I wonder why Doreen is...
I refuse to be part of this conversation.
We need to mention chicken.
My work is affected with a 2 kg, you know, unga going for 200 bob right now.
Yeah. And in the village,
my fork is affected.
Yeah, in the village, there's that tin called gorogoro. All right. So right now, nowadays, they cut it. They reduce the size of that gorogoro, that 2 kg. And it retails at 150 shillings. And then going to the posh mill, 15 shillings, 10 shillings, 20 shillings. That raises to almost 180 shillings before you take it to the jikoni. And then now you have got the stew and what have you. So it's going to be a bit expensive at the end of the day, man. So watu kama sisi tumezoea sosa is too hard for us. All right, on the front page of the Daily Nation here, cash, crypto deals and 4 murders. 4 best friends who disappeared mysteriously before their mutilated bodies were found dumped in Kijabe Forest and in Magadi led lavish lifestyles on questionable sources of wealth. Now, some had doubled in crime, but who wanted these young men dead? That's a story that is completely fleshed out for you on page 10, so you can take a look at that. Path to first round win, 22,120,458 is the total number of registered voters eligible to cast ballots in the August 9th election. And in 2013, the voter turnout was 86%. Target was 9,511,797. In 2017, voter turnout was 78%, and the target was 8,626,979. And 2013-2017, the average turnout was 82%, with a target of 9,069,388. So for all the politicians and all the big 4 who are running for the big seat, these are the numbers to play around with, and even go back to the history and see how the voter turnout was in the last general election. Land factor in fight to clinch the presidency. So far, 6 million title deeds have so far been issued by President Kenyatta in his time in office, and 110 is the total number of years since Omani Arabs took over a strip of Kenya's coast. So land issue has been part of the political factor and campaigns for the people in Mombasa. Stop Ruto from using state resources. Raila tells electoral agency. Azimio wants a state house comptroller to stop hospitality funding for DP's office, saying that they need a level playing field for all the candidates. I'll deport Chinese traders, Ruto pledges. He said that he'll not allow, if elected president, that there is no way Chinese will be allowed to engage in small businesses such as roasting maize and running kiosks. Okay, so that is that. You can take a look at the Daily Nation and all your local dailies at depth. That is just but a sneak peek of what is on the local dailies. All right, it's now 27 minutes past 7. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be delving into the order of the day. Regina.
Indeed, as you said, just to remind our viewers that come July 28th all the way to 8th of August, we're going to be televising that bout that is going to be taking place in Buckingham, UK, where our boxers are going to be participating. So KBC, as your true sports partner, asks you to save that particular date. Well, that's a couple matters in the headlines. Be sure to keep it here. We have serious conversations coming up in regard to matters that are close to our heart, current affairs. Where do we stand going forward? And to just remind you that the Ministry of Health has given a warning, so to speak, to parents and guardians that there's going to be an influx of flu, or rather, if you like, influenza among children, and has asked you and I to continue maintaining high levels of hygiene amid the rising cases of COVID-19. Mask up, social distance, use running water and soap and a sanitizer where necessary. This virus doesn't move itself. It is you and I that move it. Be your brother's keeper. We're going to be keeping tabs of that and so much more. We invite you to our website where you get to read more on what has been making headlines. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.